Hey guys, Andy Shama here for FloMarching, and today I'm joined by some very special guests. We're doing kind of like a roundtable thing, something different. We've got the entire design staff of the Boston Crusaders to discuss their 2018 program and kind of how it got from point A and then what we'll see at point Z in August. So if you guys could just go down the line and explain to me what your role is, explain to everybody what your role is, that'd be great.
I am the drill designer.
Awesome job. Yeah. I'm the guard director. I work with these two in the winter a little bit. These guys mainly set up the mapping of the show, and when we get into the summer, I kind of head up the program production design with the guard and making sure things get real coordinated with the different sections, and I do a lot of the choreography. Brady does a lot of the movement stuff, and we have some other writers, but yeah, that's what I do mostly, I guess. Yeah.
I'm the percussion director. And within that, we have a pretty big team of guys. Ian Moyer and Michael Zellers are the primary writing partners that I have, and we all work together with the team. And I think what's fun about what we do is we kind of approach it a little bit like a movie, where it's not just worrying about the drum line or the front ensemble and the electronics and all that kind of a thing. It's how does it relate to the total vision of the show. And I think that's what's so fun working with these guys, because it's easy to get inspired. With everybody in the same room together, and we spend a lot of time throughout the early part of the season together, talking in very general form to make sure that we're all on the same page with the vision.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's really fun.
Keith?
I am the artistic director, so I do a little bit of dabbling in every section. I kind of start out with what do we want to do, then I move into a little bit of the music team and kind of sourcing what we'd like to play and how that fits into the concept and how we're going to construct that. Then I move in and work with Leon, and kind of shift gears and start staging the show and figuring out where people are going to go and how the show is going to lay out from a visual standpoint. And then when the summer comes, I kind of shift over and work with Michael a little bit with the guard and try to coordinate how their role plays into it. And I kind of bounce around and try to glue things together. And that even includes some things outside working on the show. It could be the costuming or the flags or the props or even some of the marketing materials. So yeah, kind of do a little bit of everything.
Awesome.
I'm a music designer and brass arranger and composer, and then work with Colin and Ian Moyer and Mike Zellers to create a whole holistic musical package.
Awesome.
I head up the movement training and movement choreography for the whole corps.
Wow. A lot on your shoulders.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's cool to talk about that, because that's something that we were really motivated to do as a team together. Like Brady will get in there with the percussion, with the percussion staff, and he gets in there and he has things that he's tying together, so there's symmetry with the movement. It's not just we're not just regurgitating things that we're comfortable with. It really does come, I think, from Keith's big picture, and then everything else is connected beyond caption. And then, of course, we get grinding into our captions, and we have to do that too. But I think that's something that's been really inspiring about working with this team of people.
Definitely. So starting at the top with Keith, you had the initial idea of this year's show. First of all, can you tell me what the idea is and how it started?
Yeah, so the name of the show is SOS. It is, I guess maybe if I tell you a little bit about how it started, it'll help me tell you about what it is. But last year, we came together, this team came together for the first time, and we really started developing our language together and our style and our brand. And through the course of last summer, just kind of naturally spent time thinking, well, what do we do next? We've kind of got our first voice out there now, and we plan on doing this together for a long time. Where do we go, and how do we bounce off of this kind of identity that we've started? And I guess we kind of think a little bit about it like contemporary romanticism. It's current. We try to keep it current and contemporary and modern, but there's a romanticism to the passion, I think, that we try to infuse in the show and get out of the performers. And so just was thinking about themes in literature and in film and TV that I had seen, and really kind of landed on this Lord of the Flies, Lost, Castaway, kind of trapped, whether in isolation or as a group on a desert island, and kind of realized that there's so much struggle and so much conflict in that that it seemed like it would fit into that contemporary romanticism that I was talking about. So once I kind of realized how much conflict was involved, the word conflict kind of kept coming back. And like, actually, the show itself can lay itself out in 3 acts. And it's really human versus the environment, human versus human, and human versus self. Right? So these like 3 classic literary conflict devices. And then we set that on a desert island, and you've got the desperation and the struggle for survival, and then ultimately the salvation. So that's where we went, and the winter has been awesome musically and conceptually, and now we're just going to start to get into that production part, and I'm really excited about it.
So more in the pre-production side of things, at what point do you, the music arranger, get involved in as a percussion arranger or at the head of the percussion caption and even drill design? At what point do you guys get involved?
Pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
I mean,
We have weekly calls.
Yeah, I mean, Keith and Michael were having conversations last summer about this, and then even finals week last year, Keith introduced this idea to me, and I was immediately hooked on it. So and that's kind of what's neat about this collaboration, is that it's not just, okay, we're going to go over here and find music and then come back and tell you what it is. We're constantly going back and forth, and what music is going to help us tell this narrative best, and how's it going to take the audience on as wide and varied an emotional roller coaster as possible, and it be something that the cast has a blast performing. So
Yeah, I think it's something that we all throw out millions of ideas, and a lot of them are bad, a lot of them are crazy or not doable, but it really comes down to Keith kind of being like, okay, now what works, what won't work, how can we put this in a show? And he curates it is a good word, but that's really what it all comes down to, is like everybody can have great ideas, but how they can fit in a show and will it work and all that stuff, it really comes down to having one person be able to really go, here's how we can do this. And that's what works great about this. And we've had a working relationship together for a really long time in terms of what we do, and that works great the way we do it. So it's been a really, really awesome time. We're really looking forward to it, and the talent's out the roof right now.
Yeah.
It's fun.
How has the show kind of changed also over the off season from where you first brought it to it, or when you guys came to the one idea and then you picked and chose what would be right or wrong for the show? How's it changed over the winter?
Well, interestingly, I remember sitting with Ryan finals week at the restaurant by the Lucas Oil, and I remember the first thing after kind of talking about the island situation, the very next thing we talked about was Amazing Grace. We're like, that piece has a spirituality to it. The lyrics are literally lost and found in the lyrics. So for the longest time, it was like, all right, here's definitely a song that we're doing, and we're going to base everything around Amazing Grace.
yeah, we couldn't really see this show without that piece.
Right. So, and that has never changed. Now, we did spend probably 2 months saying, okay, this is an idea. What else? Just in case. We've talked about just going through other ideas helped us know more that we were on the right track in the first place. So when you say what changed, nothing really changed except we got Amazing Grace in place. We knew it had the struggle and the conflict and the drama that we wanted, and then we went and explored a few other avenues. But then ultimately, I think we all just were we came back after that, month, 2 months, 3 months, and said, okay, we're doing this. And the original, I think, title was Lost and Found. Mm-hmm. But then somewhere in midwinter, and we started thinking about the distress signals involved with a plane going down or a boat being shipwrecked. Right. And literally SOS is Save Our Souls. So the spiritual part and the humanity part of the show and the idea of Save Our Souls and the distress signal, that's probably the biggest thing that changed. We got on that became the show title, and away we went. Did anybody else?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the SOS signal is very percussive. I remember hearing it. I just kept thinking, I want to write something to that, and do something to that, but where do you fit it in? And we'd already kind of started writing the show a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's so great about, what I love about working with these guys. Sometimes because of time, you just have to make decisions and you go with it. But I never feel pushed with these guys. Like we did vet a lot of other shows out and slept on it and went back, and Keith's like, no, I'm still feeling great about this. And that was the same thing with like Morse code. We added that a little later, and then it felt right, and we have time to absorb it. And I think that's because a lot of the groups are doing that now. We're working year round. It's a year-round job. And that takes the pressure off for having to kind of just punt and say, okay, we're going to go with that. We have the time to vet it out. So.
What's kind of neat about the SOS Morse code thing too is that Boston kind of has that signature in the conquest shots, and the dot 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 dot, and so to have kind of the SOS thing, it felt like the natural companion to that, and it made sense to use that a lot as kind of a riff on our own signature.
Definitely. So I'm curious now for Brady, Michael, and Leon, how do you warp this into a visual package? And it's a very character-driven show with souls being such a huge part of it. How do you guys display that on the field?
Well, firstly, we set up the field with, for our desert island look, we really have like a literal part and a really abstract part representing what we've called a jungle. It doesn't look like actual trees, but it certainly represents those. And then we also have something we're using for a compass on the field. And we are traveling from that kind of beach side of the field and then into the island. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of what we've been talking about is this deliberate decisions to make sure that the dots we're creating are connected, design-wise. And in the first conversations, it was the same thing with the choreography. When Keith and I were talking about this idea finals week 2, it was like, well, this is great. I'm already on board because there's a way to do this in an abstract way. We can create texture and environment that helps represent the identity. We can also do it in a human way. And when I'm thinking about how to represent an idea for the whole core, color guard and horn line and percussion, it's nice to be able to latch onto something that I know is going to have that kind of opportunity and variety, abstract and human, so that I know that we're going to be able to create a clear identity. So right away, we're thrown into that. I'm like, okay, so we're looking at an island, great, we're going to have a texture that I can really do physically. Okay, we're talking about people that are going through really human struggle, great, we can make sure that comes across, they can embody that a certain way. So right away from even that week, when we're talking about ideas and going back into it and evolving and getting into the winter and the training, that really affects every decision that I make, moving forward all the way through up, move-in or training and actually choreographing the show.
Yeah. I think for me it's actually fun because it's already done. I mean, as much as you're like, oh, how do you do it? It's already written. Like what it's supposed to be is we know. So then it becomes a game of how can we do that in a creative, fun, cool, skill set way. It's not like, what are we going to do with this section? I don't know. What's the emotional about it? That's never a question. So having that set up for us as we go into the summer allows us to just be like, okay, this is where we're desperate, and how are we going to do that? And it allows us to get into it like that, and also allows us to produce fast, which is what we need to do for 3.5, 4 weeks. We've got to get it all out there first draft. So for me, that part's the easiest when we have a setup and a map and with signposts all along the way and moments that are set up to be specific things. So that for me is some of the easier, fun things to do when we just get to play.
Yeah.
And the production's being put together simultaneously with Leon and with Keith, and from a basic visual construction, and the music's ahead of that. But again, we never feel stressed out. We get that music out, and then we always do one other round of revision, especially with the percussion. We might be like a camp behind the winds in some cases, but we always, by the time we kind of vet out the music, Leon's already started on that first piece, and we're on the second piece. So the production is always going, and as he might need something or has a need or an idea that we want to elongate or whatever, then we can go back and still have time to do the musical stuff. So by the time we move in, we really have a handle on the pacing, we have a handle on the effects, as opposed to a lot of times you get to move in and then it all becomes clear because you finally hear it all together. But we're doing a lot of that work at the same time, which is really fun.
And there is a lot of preparation, but that preparation is also, it can have as much organic quality when we start to produce it at move-in as possible. It's not like all of this work sets it in stone so that we have no room to wiggle when we get together. It actually makes it so there's a lot of room to wiggle, because we kind of have anchor points or signposts, I think somebody said, but that just makes it so now it's like, well, that's the basic geography. And some of it is organized. Leon organizes it in a way that when we need it to be organized, we can be. But really the plan is for all of us to go into move in and go, we need a little more of that. We should not go there. We should pull them this way and be able to create more emotion or more connection for the audience. And so all the preparation is really to make it so that it can be
Set up
more
to,
organic.
to play. Yeah. And that happens all summer. You know, it's I mean everything is okay. There's our draft. Now we got to make this more of this and more of that. And everybody does that, but that's what makes it fun. Is there's really a reason behind why we're trying to do what we're doing. And some of my favorite shows we've ever done together have been these shows that are passionate and they're emotional and they're nostalgic and they grab people and it has that level to it. And we've been doing these the past couple years. I feel really, really strong about the direction of that part of it. It just it gives a performer something to go, okay, I know what this is. I know how that's supposed to feel. And it matches what they're doing, and that's what you want as a performer. You know, you don't want to not really understand what you're doing and you're doing it, or, you know. So those are the things that are exciting for the kids and real exciting for us.
Definitely.
I think the preparation, you know, that we all do in the winter really allows that to blossom a lot once we get to the summer. You know, I think that, you know, trying to get as much of the show, you know, using the tools we have with Pieware and making videos and the back and forth that Keith and I have and figuring out, making sure, you know, all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed as much as possible before we get to move in. So then, you know, we have room to just get the show on the field and then really start creating and, you know, making our organic moments, you know, to the next level, because, you know, the next level that we can make things, you know, not on a piece of drill paper is, you know, incredible.
Yeah. So that earlier, Michael, you were mentioning like basically just transitioning into how you've done the foundation and now you never stop designing. But at what point in the season do you wash your hands of it and say, you know what, we're happy with this?
Finals time, when it's over. Literally. Yeah, I do think we design up to the end. I mean, it's usually like, all right, here's the twist for tonight, you know, and it's not designing like, okay, you guys, we're going to learn 12 new pages of drill at the end. It's icing on the cake, and it's this performer is going to do this special thing, and it's set up to see it, and, you know, that kind of stuff is always fun, you know, and we do that all year long, especially at the end of the season. Everybody wants that. I mean, we do, how many shows in the summer? It's like
30
a lot,
30
you
to
know?
35 shows.
So we wanted to have that evolution where it's never getting old, and it's always evolving and getting better.
Right. Even if you saw us the night before, maybe if you see us 2 nights in a row, you're going to see something fresh that next night.
Yeah.
Give it all the way to the end.
Well, I definitely look forward to that. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to get this insight into the 2018 show for the Boston Crusaders. I cannot wait to see it on the field for the first time. Again, for Leon, Michael, Colin, Keith, Ryan, and Brady, thanks for joining me. And we hope you guys join us at the first show.